Welcome to the Dan Johnson Show. My name is Micah, and we are continuing our week of daily testimonies for Christ. You may have heard this one, but not like this. So listen, give your full attention to my mom and the founder of this company, Danny Johnson.
All week we've been talking about how our staff members learned who their Savior was. So that's what I want to talk with you about today. What was the moment that you knew who he was in your life?
I can't say it without crying. How crazy is that? Okay, so I grew up in an atheist home. The man that raised me was an atheist. My mom was agnostic. And so all the drugs, all the abuse, sexually abused, verbally abused, physically abused, just all of that. And my mom broke her neck when I was 11. And, which is crazy. Think about that, like all the abuse my mom suffered through, and then she breaks her neck. She's 29 years old, and I'm 11. And it was like the last day of my 5th grade year. And so, wow, I didn't even realize how close these moments are together. It's awesome. So I didn't know anything about God, like at all. I remember one time my parents wanted to go do something. They dropped us off at a church to we went to a Sunday school one time. We were coloring. We didn't learn anything. It was, the 3 of us were occupied by them letting us color, and then my parents picked us up, whatever, later. So anyway, my mom breaks her neck, and she starts to get parts of a settlement. I don't know what you call it, installments of a settlement, right? So $75,000 at one point, and these different installments. And so we were renting a house. We moved from Southern California up to Redding, or Palisadro. It's like 8 miles east of Redding, California. And we're renting this house, and my father had just started molesting me. And which is a crazy, horrific story all in itself. And so we then start school at this brand new school, and I meet a boy. His name is Travis Sluter. And he and I start writing notes back to each other. And so I'm keeping these notes. They're little love letters like, 13-year-olds in the 8th grade have, right? So I come home one day from school, and this is like a month into it. This is now October. It's around the end of October. And my bedroom is ransacked. It's turned upside down, inside out. There's just crap everywhere. All of my clothes are out of my drawers. My nightstands are just, every love letter from Travis. And the place is a disaster. And I walk in, and he is just livid. And he starts screaming at me and tells me that we are going to be sent to this private school where we have to wear dresses every day, where there's small classes, we're going to be watched all the time. Well, the only private school in this little town of 700 happened to be a Christian school. Crazy that the atheists put his 3 daughters in a Christian school. Not because of the Christianity, but because he wanted a super conservative. And he said, you're going to end up getting pregnant like your mother, which should have triggered me. Like, wait, of course my mom got pregnant. She was married. I should have asked questions, but of course I didn't. I was terrified. So anyway, so I end up in this private Christian school. And it's just like most of those Christian schools. It's in a single wide trailer. There's 2 single wide trailers on a church campus. The church doesn't own the school. It's just somebody that they let them use the property. An old, musty, nasty, smelly old church with old pews that are super uncomfortable. I mean, can you just feel it? You know what I mean? It was built probably in the 60s, 50s or 60s. And so we had a chapel. And this is the very first chapel. It's on a Wednesday. It's around the very end. It might have been October 28th or something right around there. Now, backing up, could you imagine my parents would drive us to school, all windows up, smoking weed? So I know for a fact that my first day of school, I smell like pot. I smell like pot it's impossible not to smell like pot. When you are driving to school and all the windows are up and your parents are smoking weed. Oh, that's great. First day of school. First week of school. So this was around the first week of being in this new school, which was terrifying. And it's a Wednesday, and we're having a chapel service, which I don't know what that is, right? I'm kind of sitting in the back. I'm obviously not fitting in. I'm totally uncomfortable. I'm terrified to be there. I do not feel like I fit into this place, right? So all these kids are friends. It's just like when any kid starts in a new school, but it's a whole other level when it's like a religious place and you don't come from a religious family. So you want to talk about like, absolutely, I'm not around my people. This is, if you do drugs, I'm familiar with you. If you cuss like I used to. So, anyway, so if you know what I'm saying? Like these are like proper people. They talked right. Praise God. Let's pray. What is that? You know what I mean? What's prayer? I didn't know what a prayer was. What is the Bible? What is that? I don't know what any of these terms are. I don't know what the hymns are, right? So they started with some hymns like, I'm looking through this book like, where's Van Halen? You know what I mean? Where's Rush? You know what I mean? Like Def Leppard? Like AC/DC? Like, so this is like so foreign to me, right? So I'm sitting through this chapel. I'm sitting in the back because I'm just trying to hide. And Leilani Guido, she's the principal. Beautiful blonde woman, super tall. Her 3 kids go to the same school. And she's given the message. She's teaching. Standing in front of this wooden thing, a pulpit. I didn't know what that was, right? So, and she's given this message. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I begin to weep. I can't even remember what she said. All I know is I'm sitting in the back. I am shrinking down in that pew. And I am bawling. And it won't stop. I'm trying to hide my face. The whole thing is over. I put down my head. I'm like trying to pretend like I might have a headache or something. Like I don't want anyone to see me crying like this. Everybody leaves the chapel. Leilani Guido beelines for me. And she sits down with me. And she says, "Is everything okay?" And I said, "I think so." And she says, "Do you want to receive Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior?" Yes. I said yes. And I didn't know even what I was saying yes to, but it resonated. The question resonated inside of my soul somehow. So I said yes. She just said, "Just say this after me." And she led me in a prayer. And I remember going home that day, hugging a Bible. And not saying anything to my dad because he hated Christians. And he was really verbal about it. Really had some horrible words about Christians. And so, anyway, I didn't say anything to them. But something came alive inside of me. I was like really dead. You know what I mean? I battled with suicide from 6 years old on, and I didn't get free from that until I was in my 30s. But I had something like happen inside of my soul. It was like hope. Hope had entered inside of me where I had been so hopeless. You know, my mom is handicapped. She can't walk. I take care of my mom. I take care of the house. I do laundry. I help to cook. Do you understand? Like, I have so much pressure and then all the abuse. And then my dad's coming to my room at night, right? Everything was so hopeless. Everything was so dark. And so when I prayed that prayer, it was almost as though there was a new breath that came into my soul and opened me up. And I would just run off and take my Bible off in the field and just talk to him. Talk to him when I was mad, talk to him when I was sad, talk to him about what was going on in the house, not knowing anything. But there was a really very special connection that happened during that time.
Was it a magic fix?
It was not a magic fix. And predominantly, I think the reason why it wasn't a magic fix, first of all, I was young, I'm 13, right? So then I'm surrounded by all these Christian kids. And the Christian kids know how to lie, cheat, and steal, and cover it all up with memorizing scriptures. You know what I mean? They know how to act right. So I would see this. I would see, because they're the kids you're hanging out with, right? So they'd be sneaking out and having sex and drinking and partying and showing up to youth group and singing all the worship songs and raising their hands and reciting all the scriptures and acting the part, but then behind scenes they're dropping F-bombs, you know, and they're doing everything that they say they're not doing. And then to be the main thing that was probably the hardest and worst thing that had happened during that season was a few years later when I got pregnant. And when I got pregnant with Christina, all the judgment and the all-out, like, come at you attack to try to get that baby out of you, first with the abortion, and then second, you know, wanting me to have an abortion, and then second, like, you can't raise her. It's not your child's fault that you've done this. You know, why make a child suffer? You and Brent are not going to get married. You know, they did not want him to be with me at all. Like, they wanted nothing to do with me being a part of their family at all. I was not good enough. And I get it. I really do. When I look back, I probably would have been really nervous about me too with my son. I'm serious. I'm serious. And I've had to fight those feelings when my sons began to, like, be entertained by young women, like, you know. So anyway, I was young and foolish, and I didn't understand that Christians make mistakes and that Christians are as flawed as everybody else. The sad thing is when they try to act like they're not, when they don't confess their stuff, when they're not real, when they're not transparent, when they're not honest, when they're not authentic, that's when now the facade is this person never sins and they're always perfect, and it kind of creates this crazy measuring stick that other people around them think they have to live up to, and that is not God. Like, clearly is not God. The Bible is filled with faults. It's filled with disasters and mess and incest and wars and murders and, like, stealing and killing. I mean, it's just filled with all of that, and it's filled with his love, how much he loves and how faithful he is. So anyway, it was not a magic pill. Initially, it was hope that had gotten into my soul, and then I definitely got distracted with Christian kids who lived a dual life, and then I got distracted with the pain of the judgment of the Christian parents and the manipulation of the Christian adults. And yeah, that was a pain where when I was 18, I said, God, if I have to be like your people, I want nothing to do with you. Your people's. I had all kinds of colorful words about his people, and I didn't want to be associated with them at all. And I had walked away from him completely, and I became a metaphysician. Like, completely. I was that chick that had crystals around my neck and in my bra and in my hands. I was that chick that when I had my business, I burnt incense in my office to ward off all the evil spirits, and it smelled like pot right before we'd have a big presentation, which was, like, I look back and go, how did we ever make money? Like, it's really shocking. So yeah, for 5 years, I wanted nothing to do with God. And in that 5 years is when I had become homeless. And when I walked away from my first love, which was Jesus, that was my first love. When I walked away from him, when I abandoned that, I got dark. I just went so dark and so depleted and so sad. And then, of course, the story goes that he gave me another chance, you know, on that beach, and pick up your mat and walk, and that was, like, profound. But I was terrified. I was terrified that I knew whose voice that was, and I knew who was directing me, but I was scared to death to step anywhere near a church ever again. Like, I want to love you, but I do not want to be associated with those people. So it took a while. In fact, it was March 2nd, 1993. March 2nd of 1993, where God totally bamboozled me. He completely bamboozled me, and pulled us, Hans and I invited us to a church service in Hawaii. We had just arrived, and his mentor his wife had died. And so it was out of respect, and I'm telling you, I manifested like a principality of darkness when we got this invitation, right when we were picked up from the airport. Like, hey, Damien wants you to come to church. I'm like, no, blankety blank. And I just went off. And they're like, dude, chill out, man. Like, why are you acting like this? And so anyway, so we ended up going. You know, I got guilted into going. And there's like tons of people there, and this great black preacher that is there, and he's like sweating and spitting, and he's just going at it. And I didn't like him. I'm just like, look at all these freaking people, you know. I was just like, get a life. Did you realize you're being manipulated? He's probably going to ask for money now. I just was like, I was so evil. It was terrible. And in that thing, I'm sitting back, feet up on the pew in front of me, or the chair, the prayer chew, whatever you call that. Chair, pew, chair, whatever, right? So I'm sitting with the feet, and I'm like, you know, I'm just like glaring and judging and glaring. Could you imagine you invite someone to church and they act like that? How embarrassing, right? So I'm like this, and all of a sudden it hits me. You're sowing bad karma. I'm like, give me a piece of paper and a pen. I say to Hans and Chris, you have a piece of paper? I need a piece of paper, because I need to at least, because I understood the law of reaping and sowing. I need to at least act right here. And started to listen. And they started to listen. And the principles he was teaching, I was teaching at First Steps. But I didn't know they were in the Bible. Had no clue. Like, dude, that's in the Bible. Like, I know, I didn't know that was in the Bible. So this kind of went on for several minutes. I'm like, oh my, this is really good. You know, so I'm taking notes. And at the very end of it, he had everybody stand up and repeat this prayer. And I just lost it. So all of that arrogance and all of that hardness just like went, it broke. And I went back to his back table and I bought $656 worth of all of his books and tapes and resources, and I just started eating it like it was food. And that's pretty much how I've been ever since. It is.
And there have still been trials.
Oh my gosh, there's been so many trials in my life. And every single one of them, he's made me better out of all of them. There's been so much tragedy. There's been so many hardships. And yet there's been so many insane blessings and miracles and fulfillment. Like when I look at where I am today, I can't say this without losing it. When I look at where I'm at today, when I look at where my marriage is today, when I look at who my children are today, without God, I'm nothing. Without him, I can do nothing. Without him, I'm a total failure. So that March 2nd, 1993 was the absolute pivotal time in my life to then journey me on in this walk, this full-on commitment with him, me being his daughter, he being my father, and to heal and to deliver me of all this stuff that was inside of me from my childhood, and to see the grace. My kids have not had the childhood that I had. My kids have not had the childhood that Hans had. They have had such an insane, blessed life. It's ridiculous, man. They've traveled around the world to see who they are as adults, and how I'm watching them start to mature and make their own decisions and deal with their own consequences from their own decisions. How they're managing money. They are in a dream world. They don't know they're in a dream world, honestly. They have no idea they're in a dream world because they don't know any different. And so I look at how God filled in my blanks, how he made up for my mistakes. The woman that I was, my kids should hate me. My past, they should hate me. They shouldn't respect me. They respect me. They respect their father. The kind of intense love that our family has and the intense respect that we have. We're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But in my opinion, I'm living a dream. I'm living in such a dream world, and that I have seriously seen that everything that God writes about in his word is absolutely true. Nobody could ever try to convince me of anything, because I have lived what's in that Bible, meaning the trauma, the tragedy, the heartbreak, the betrayals, the failures, and the insane elation, and the beautiful peace, and the deep, passionate love, and the adventure of walking with him, the adventure of being in business with him, the adventure of learning, continuously learning from him and the ways that he goes about teaching. The miracles I've seen with physical healings, and the physical healings of my daughter, Erica, who almost died, it's crazy. Like the things that I've tested to choose to believe in and to see it manifest itself has been absolutely crazy. You cannot look at my past and say, oh yeah, I can see how she ended up here. You cannot. Like nobody can go, oh yeah, yeah, there are those kids that were in school. It's like, oh yeah, most likely to succeed. And then they succeed. That wasn't me, right? I'm a part of every bad statistic. I'm not supposed to be alive, let alone married. I'm not supposed to be happily married. I'm not supposed to have functional, healthy relationships with my children. I'm not supposed to have I'm not supposed to have, I'm supposed to be a drug addict who died a long time ago. I'm supposed to have been not married. I'm supposed to have like 5 kids with 5 different people and a very toxic, crazy life. I am not supposed to have anything that I have today. I'm supposed to be broke, and I'm not. And why? Because he is real, because he is true, and because of his grace, I am alive. Because of his grace, we have been blessed. Because of his grace, that he follows his word, and if we choose to follow his word, you get what the word says it's going to give. And that's exactly what we have. Successful businesses, successful investments, healing from sickness, healing out of toxic relationships, our marriage that was toxic from time to time throughout our marriage, that is no longer, which is shocking to me, crazy. Seriously, I mean, there's nothing we have and nothing that we've experienced that makes any sense. It can only be God. So in this like week of Christmas, even though it's not Jesus' birthday, it's not. He was not born in December. Anyone that has any kind of biblical sense knows he was not born in December. Definitely not December 25th every year. He was born a Hebrew on a Hebrew calendar, which means, like, for example, my birthday's March 2nd, but it's Adar 12. That's a different day in March or April every year. It's never the same day. I have not had it on March 2nd since. So it's always a different day, right? So, in fact, I encourage people, Google my Hebrew birthday. Just, if you type in, what's my Hebrew birthday? It'll let you calculate it according to the Hebrew calendar, and you'll see what day it is, and you'll see how it changes every single year. It's not on the same day every single year. So obviously, Jesus' birthday, not December 25th. The sun god, the Greek sun god, the Egyptian sun god, born December 25th. Yeah, there we go. So even though he wasn't born December 25th, even though he wasn't born this week, this holiday, doesn't mean he's not real. Doesn't mean that he's not the Messiah. Doesn't mean that he has not transformed, billions of people's lives. So bottom line, he's real. Doesn't matter when he was born. I'm just glad he was. I'm just so glad that I heard that story. I am so glad that that story got inside of me and that I truly received my spirit coming alive. I truly was born again in the spirit. I was born of my mother of water. I was born again in my spirit, truly, because my Father mandated that and sent his Son, and that story has gone all over the world, and because of that story, that has led us right back to him. The whole point of Yeshua, Jesus, was to lead us to our Father. So no one can argue with me about that. Nope. I will keep you up for days telling you personal stories of what he has done in my life. Not what I fabricated in my head. No. Too many crazy miracles. Too many. No way that a human can manifest any of that.
If this episode was an encouragement to you, go to DannyJohnson.com and share it with your friends now. You never know who else needs to hear it. This has been The Danny Johnson Show. Join us every weekday at 7 a.m. for more insights that will help you get to the life you've always wanted.